When I was 60, I was diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave me, at best, 14 months. That was 45 years ago. My name is Barbara Sue. I live alone in a 2-bedroom house in Asheville, North Carolina. I cook my own meals, tend my own garden, walk 2 miles every morning before the neighborhood wakes up, and I haven't asked my children for help with a single thing since I was 75 years old. I left the nursing home they put me in voluntarily against medical advice, and I have not looked back once. I don't want anyone to go through what I did with cancer. That's why I made this video. I am going to tell you everything, the foods, the habits, the things I did that the doctors eventually admitted contributed to what they called, in a published case review, one of the most statistically improbable recoveries in modern oncology. I'm going to tell you the practical things, the things you can start tomorrow, the things that cost nothing and require no prescription. But I'm also going to tell you the part I've kept mostly to myself for a long time, the part that happened in a hospital hallway when I was at my lowest point, the conversation that I believe is responsible for the other 70% of why I'm still here. Most people who hear that part don't know what to do with it. That's fine. You don't have to do anything with it except hear it. You are old enough to decide for yourself what's true. Stay with me until the end. The order of what I'm about to share matters. Each piece connects to the next. What I did wrong first, and for a long time I want to be honest with you in a way that health content rarely is. I spent the first year after my diagnosis doing everything right on paper and continuing to decline. I followed the oncology protocol. I underwent surgery. I went through chemotherapy. I lost 34 pounds. I lost my hair. I read every book I could find. I watched every video, listened to every expert, tried every supplement that a well-meaning friend or a late-night internet search suggested. I drank green juice I couldn't afford and didn't enjoy. I did all of it with the grim, joyless determination of someone checking boxes before the end. And I kept getting worse. I want to be clear. I am not telling you that medicine is wrong. The surgery saved my immediate life. The oncology team at my hospital were dedicated, skilled people who genuinely cared. I am not here to argue against any of that. What I am telling you is that I was putting premium fuel into an engine that had a fundamental problem I hadn't identified yet. And until I identified that problem, nothing else was going to work the way it was supposed to. But let me start with the practical things, because they matter, they are real, and for a large portion of you watching this, they may be exactly enough. The first thing I changed, water before anything else. I was chronically dehydrated without knowing it. My doctor never mentioned it. It wasn't until I read a study, years later, after my recovery, when I was trying to understand what had happened to me, that I learned what dehydration does to a body over 60. Your lymphatic system, the network responsible for collecting and removing cellular waste and damaged DNA, runs almost entirely on water. When you are dehydrated, that system slows. Damaged cells accumulate, inflammation rises, and chronic inflammation, the research is now very clear on this, is one of the primary conditions under which cancer initiates and grows. Here is what I do, and what I did during my recovery, without exception. I keep a full glass of filtered water on my nightstand. The moment my feet hit the floor in the morning, before coffee, before food, before I look at my phone, I drink all of it. 20 ounces, minimum. I add a squeeze of fresh lemon, not for flavor, though I've grown to love it. Lemon peel contains a compound called D-limonene, which has documented anti-tumor activity in laboratory research. I also walk for 30 minutes within the first hour of waking, not a stroll. I walk at a pace where I could hold a conversation, but would find it difficult to sing. This matters because movement stimulates lymphatic flow directly. The combination of morning hydration and morning movement, according to research I read from the Karolinska Institute, compounds the cellular cleansing effect significantly. I have done this every single day for over 40 years. I have not missed a day due to illness in longer than I can remember. Make of that what you will. The second thing, I stopped eating sterile food. One of the stranger pieces of advice I received during my illness came from my gastroenterologist, who suggested I be very careful about food safety, given that my immune system was compromised from treatment. The implication was, eat clean, eat cooked, be careful. What no one told me at the time, and what the research has since demonstrated clearly, is that your gut microbiome is your immune system's primary manufacturing facility. When I was eating nothing but soft, processed, pasteurized, thoroughly cooked food, I was starving the microbial community that my body needed most desperately. It was a woman I met in a recovery group, not a physician, who suggested I try kefir, plain, full-fat, naturally fermented kefir, and a small portion of raw sauerkraut, the kind from the refrigerated section, with nothing but cabbage and salt on the label, not the shelf-stable pasteurized variety. Within 90 days, I felt something change. I cannot explain it more precisely than that. A quality of inflammation that had lived behind my eyes and in my joints for years began to quietly retreat. The mechanism, which I understand better now than I did then, involves short-chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate, which is produced when beneficial gut bacteria process fiber. Butyrate has been shown to signal precancerous cells in the colon to undergo programmed cell death before they can cause harm. It also dramatically reduces systemic inflammation. I eat one serving of naturally fermented food every single day. I pair it with garlic or leeks, which feed the beneficial bacteria the fermented foods introduce. This combination is not expensive. It is not complicated. It has been practiced in traditional food cultures around the world for thousands of years. Western medicine is only now beginning to formally study what those cultures apparently understood intuitively. The third thing, I learned to walk as medicine. I mentioned the morning walk already, but I want to be more specific about why it works, because understanding the mechanism helped me stay consistent in a way that simple habit advice never did. Cancer cells have a metabolic quirk, first identified by a biochemist named Otto Warburg in the 1930s and confirmed by hundreds of subsequent studies. They are almost exclusively dependent on glucose for fuel. They are poor at using oxygen for energy. Normal cells can use both. When you engage in sustained moderate intensity physical movement, the kind that raises your heart rate to somewhere between 55 and 70% of your maximum, you accomplish two things simultaneously. You deplete circulating blood glucose, removing the preferred fuel of cancer cells, and you flood your tissues with oxygenated blood, creating a physiological environment that is actively hostile to cancer cell survival. A 2020 analysis of data from 1.4 million adults found that regular moderate physical activity was associated with a 42% reduction in colon cancer risk and a 38% reduction in breast cancer risk. These are extraordinary numbers for something that requires no prescription, no copay, and no specialist referral. I walk 35 minutes 5 days a week before my first full meal. The fasted state amplifies the glucose-depleting effect. I walk somewhere with natural morning light whenever possible because morning sunlight regulates the body's circadian rhythm, which in turn governs immune surveillance, the body's continuous automated cancer detection process. I am 105. I walked this morning. The fourth thing, the vegetable I wish I had known about at 40. If I could go back and give my younger self one specific piece of dietary advice, it would be this: eat broccoli sprouts, prepared correctly, 3 times a week minimum. The active compound is called sulforaphane. It is found in all cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, but most potently in raw broccoli sprouts, which contain up to 50 times more sulforaphane per gram than the mature vegetable. What sulforaphane does inside the body is frankly remarkable. It activates a genetic switch called NRF2, which triggers over 200 protective genes simultaneously. Genes involved in detoxification, antioxidant defense, and the repair of damaged DNA before it can mutate into cancer. Research from Johns Hopkins found this. Research from the University of Illinois found a 52% reduction in bladder cancer risk associated with regular sulforaphane consumption. A study from Roswell Park found that sulforaphane targets cancer stem cells, the particular type of cell that conventional chemotherapy often fails to eliminate, and that is responsible for cancer recurrence. Here is the critical preparation detail that most people get wrong. Sulforaphane is not present in broccoli in its active form. It is created through a chemical reaction triggered when you chop or chew the vegetable, activating an enzyme called myrosinase. Cooking above 140 degrees Fahrenheit destroys that enzyme entirely. Fully cooked broccoli delivers very little active sulforaphane. The correct preparation: chop or crush your broccoli or sprouts, let them sit for 40 minutes before consuming or cooking, then steam for no more than 3 to 4 minutes. Raw broccoli sprouts require no cooking at all. I add a small amount of mustard seed powder to cooked cruciferous vegetables, which independently contains active myrosinase and restores the enzyme activity that cooking removed, increasing sulforaphane absorption by up to 4-fold. I have eaten some form of cruciferous vegetable, prepared this way nearly every day for 4 decades. The fifth thing: sleep as the master switch. Of everything I have described, this is the one that had the most dramatic immediate effect during my recovery. Not because it is the most important in isolation, but because nothing else works properly when this is broken. During deep, slow-wave sleep, what researchers call stage 3 and stage 4, your body produces its highest concentrations of melatonin, not simply a sleep hormone, one of the most powerful antioxidants your body manufactures internally. Melatonin directly inhibits tumor angiogenesis, meaning it blocks cancer from building the new blood vessels required for growth. It stimulates natural killer cells, the frontline immune cells, whose specific function is to identify and destroy cancer cells before they can establish themselves. Melatonin production declines by up to 70% between the ages of 40 and 70. Most people over 65 are producing negligible amounts during sleep. When I understood this, I restructured my entire evening. I am in bed by 10 o'clock. My room is completely dark. Even small amounts of light suppress melatonin production. My room temperature is between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I stop eating 3 hours before sleep because digestion competes with the cellular repair work the body prioritizes at night. At 8 in the evening, I drink a small glass of tart cherry juice, which contains natural melatonin precursors. Within 6 weeks of beginning this protocol, during my cancer treatment, my energy levels shifted in a way that was noticeable to everyone around me. My oncologist commented on it at my next appointment. She asked what I had changed. When I told her, she paused for a long moment and said she had never specifically discussed sleep architecture with a cancer patient before. I slept 7.5 hours last night. I will sleep the same tonight. Now, here is the part I promised you. Everything I have just described is real. The research is real. The results were real. I would encourage anyone facing a serious diagnosis to implement every single one of those practices immediately and without apology. And I need to tell you that in my honest assessment, looking back across 45 years, what I have described above accounts for perhaps 30% of why I am here. Let me tell you about the hallway. It was a Tuesday afternoon, somewhere in the second year after my diagnosis, during a period when the treatment had plateaued and my numbers had not improved in 3 consecutive months. I was sitting in a chair in the hallway of the oncology wing, waiting for a scan, and I was very quietly giving up, not dramatically, not with tears, just the quiet, private acknowledgement that I was tired, that I had tried everything, that perhaps the kindest thing I could do for my family was to stop fighting so hard and let things move at whatever pace they were going to move. A woman sat down next to me. I recognized her after a moment as someone I had known briefly in college. We had been in the same literature class 40 years earlier. Her name was Dorothy. I would not have recognized her if she had not spoken first, and not because she had aged, because she had not aged. She was 73 years old. She looked, and I mean this without any exaggeration, the way a strong and healthy 40-year-old looks. Clear eyes, upright posture, a quality of calm that I found almost unsettling in that environment. She was there visiting a friend on another floor. We talked for perhaps 90 minutes. I asked her eventually what she had done, what her secret was. She smiled as though she had been waiting for that question, and she said something I want to try to share with you as precisely as I can remember it. She said, "You understand that your body is not what it appears in the mirror." She said, "If you look through a microscope at the tissue of your hand, you do not see solid matter. You see particles in motion. Look deeper than that, beyond the cellular level, to the subatomic level, And what you see is not even particles anymore. What you see is electromagnetic waves, fields of energy, moving, interacting, constantly changing. She said, your body is, at its most fundamental level, energy. And the physical environment around you, the chair you're sitting in, the walls of this hallway, the space between us, is also, at its most fundamental level, energy. This is not a spiritual claim. This is what physics describes. This is what quantum mechanics demonstrates. She said, given that, there are really only two questions that matter about your health. What kind of waves are you generating? And what kind of waves are you letting into your field? She told me she had been practicing Falun Dafa for 20 years. She did not press it on me. She simply explained what it had meant for her. A set of gentle meditative exercises. Yes, but more fundamentally, a framework for understanding the relationship between thought, energy, and physical reality. The foundational principles, she said, were truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, not as abstract virtues, but as practical, energetic facts. She explained it this way: anger generates a particular kind of internal state. At the molecular level, the stress hormones produced by chronic anger, resentment, and hostility create an internal environment that suppresses immune function, elevates inflammation, and, as a growing body of research in psychoneuroimmunology is beginning to document, creates the exact cellular conditions under which cancer initiates and proliferates. This is not metaphorical, it is biochemical. But she was pointing at something deeper than the biochemistry. She said, think about the life you have lived up to now. Be honest with yourself. How much of your mental life has been spent in conflict? Not necessarily conflict you expressed outwardly, internal conflict, the running tape of resentment, the relationships that never resolved, the sense that life had not given you what you deserved, the quiet anger at specific people who, years later, still occupy mental real estate they were never invited to keep. I sat with that for a moment. I had lived, I realized as she said it, in a state of nearly continuous low-grade conflict for most of my adult life, with colleagues, with my former husband, with relatives who had disappointed me, with myself, perhaps most of all. I had never acted beyond the limits of what was socially acceptable. I had never considered myself an angry person, but the tape had been running. Every perceived slight, every unmet expectation, every relationship that had ended in a way that still, decades later, did not feel resolved. It had all been stored somewhere, playing on repeat, quietly consuming energy that my body needed for other purposes. Dorothy said, when I began this practice, I began to understand that those thoughts were not passive, they were generative. Every thought of resentment, envy, or bitterness, regardless of whether it was justified, regardless of whether the other person deserved it, was creating a wave that I was sending into my own field. And at the molecular level, that wave was returning, not as punishment, as physics, as simple cause and effect at a scale we don't normally think about. She said, conversely, genuine kindness, not performed kindness, not strategic kindness, but the real internal state of compassion for other human beings, including the ones who have hurt you, generates a different kind of wave entirely. And that wave also returns. I went home that evening and I lay in the dark for a long time, and I thought about my life as honestly as I ever had. I thought about my former husband and the ways I had held on to that resentment for 15 years like something precious I was owed. I thought about a colleague who had, in my view, treated me unfairly early in my career, and how I had quietly nursed that grievance for decades. I thought about my mother, who had died before I could tell her the things I should have said. I thought about myself, the version of me that had never believed she was quite good enough, quite loved enough, quite lucky enough. And I began, slowly and imperfectly, and without any dramatic moment of resolution, to let it go. Not because the grievances were illegitimate, some of them were entirely legitimate, not because forgiveness meant that what had happened was acceptable, but because I finally understood, in a way that felt physical rather than philosophical, that the person those thoughts were harming was me, that I was the one who had been living inside them. I began to practice what Dorothy had described. I did not become a different person overnight. I am not telling you I found some perfect peace and was immediately healed. What I am telling you is that over the following 12 months, something in my body changed. My inflammation markers improved in ways my oncology team could not fully explain against the backdrop of my treatment plan. My energy returned. My scan results at the 1-year mark showed something that prompted my oncologist to use the word she had previously told me she was hesitant to use, remission. And then, at the 2-year mark, a word she said she had genuinely not expected to say, clear. I am not asking you to believe that thought created this outcome by itself. I believe the food mattered. I believe the sleep mattered. I believe the walking and the water and the sulforaphane all played real roles in a real biological process. What I am asking you to consider is that you may be working very hard on 30% of the problem. The other 70% is quieter. It does not come in a supplement bottle. It does not have a clinical trial yet, though the field of psychoneuroimmunology is moving faster than most people realize. It does not show up on the list of recommendations your doctor gives you, not because your doctor is wrong, but because medicine, for all its brilliance, is still learning to study the places where consciousness and biology intersect. Dorothy lived to 94. She looked younger at 90 than most people look at 60. She told me the last time we spoke that she had not been ill, not with anything, in over 30 years. I believe her. I have no scientific framework that fully accounts for her. I have only the evidence of my own life, which is now 105 years long and still, on most mornings, feels like it has more ahead of it than behind. Here is what I want you to take from this. Start with the water tomorrow morning. Add the walking, add the fermented foods and the broccoli sprouts and the sleep. These things are real and they will help you and they cost almost nothing. And then, when you have a quiet evening and no one is asking anything of you, sit with the question Dorothy asked me in that hallway. How much of your mental life is being spent on the running tape? Who are you still in conflict with, inside the privacy of your own mind that you haven't spoken to in years? What would it cost you, not to excuse what happened, not to pretend it was acceptable, but simply to put it down and stop carrying it, to genuinely wish those people well and release them? I don't know what your answer will be. I know what mine was. I know that I am 105 years old, and I walked 2 miles this morning in the early light, and my garden needs attention, and my children are coming to visit next week, and I am not afraid of anything. That is the whole story. I hope some part of it is useful to you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, not because I need the views. At 105, I am somewhat past caring about the algorithm, but because if there is one person in your life who is fighting something difficult and quietly running out of reasons to keep trying, this story belongs to them.